Good morning. How warm are you? Good morning. How the devil are you doing this Friday? It is warm, isn't it? Sweating like a dead donkey here. I'm going to say a very quick good morning to M&M Plant, who have just joined us over on Instagram, and our friend Mr. Clips of Beast is over here as well. Let's go. I'm back, he says. It's quite a mouthful, your name, Mr. Clips of Beast. Any chance you could tell us your first name so that I can refer to you, a little less formally, maybe? Just a thought. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen is giving out heat alerts. Yeah. How hot was it last night? And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I've sleeping with the window open, which means I get a slight cool breeze. Yeah, but I can hear all the noise that's going on outside. And we have parakeets living outside our house. They have no respect for human dignity or sleep. First thing this morning, and I do mean first thing, about 4 o'clock this morning, they decided, now's a good time to have a party. Good morning, everyone. Going to go right the way back to the beginning. Dan Cullen was here at 7:27, and he says, morning all. Another annoying day, too flipping hot. And Mr. Clips of Beast says, I can call him Rick. Rick it is. Morning, Rick. How are you doing, my friend? Great of you to be here. Gary Muirhead is here as well. And Gary is the provider of today's question of the day, which I'll be coming on to in just a moment. I'm sure I've seen Mr. Turner here. Jim Turner is indeed in the house. Mark Whiting is all present and correct. All looking good. All looking good. Just a very quick reminder. There is no show tomorrow, and there is no show on Wednesday. And Ken Hatcher, I'm going to remind him now, Ken Hatcher is here as well. He's got the sunshine as well. Ken, no show tomorrow, no show Wednesday. I am leaving here shortly after the Sparrow has farted tomorrow morning, off to the airport, first stop Frankfurt, then another plane to Nuremberg, where I'm going to look at some all-electric demolition. I'm genuinely excited about it, particularly as it's one of those things that I said would maybe never happen. Should never, ever lay down a challenge to the fine folks at Volvo, because they will definitely prove you wrong. And speaking of being proved wrong, we'll be just let you know. I'm going to tell you now, today's morning monologue is all about the fact that change comes regardless. Rick over at Mr. Clips of Beast says, just a question, did you not stream Saturday and Sunday? Because I didn't get a notification. No, we generally do 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Occasionally do a Saturday. Haven't done one for a while. I was planning to do a bit of a marathon show a little while ago, but then I had to go overseas, so couldn't do it. But watch this space. Now, thank you very much indeed, Dan. Good luck and stay safe. Thank you very much indeed. Now, fresh back. I've just mentioned Volvo, and here is somebody who's just been there. Wow, best time away I've ever had, and I've been to some amazing places. Steve, listen, I'm sure you are putting stuff, well, I've seen a few bits and pieces you're putting up on LinkedIn and various other places. Steve, for those of you who don't know, has just been to Eskilstuna with Volvo as part of their influencer program. Got to see the brand new, I can't remember which model it is, but I know he's seen the new wheeled excavator and is a big fan. I'm sure you all follow him already, but if you don't, go and find Steve Williamson over on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or any of the places. Go and give him a follow, because I'm sure he's going to be producing some great stuff. Steve, just a very, very quick one. Someplace, right? And they look after you very, very well. Apparently, he has a lot of smoke at work at the moment. Huge fires on the wind farms. Ooh. Gary, are you seeing that from where you are, or are you a bit too far away? And Chris Ford has arrived, says, morning, Mark and gang, which means we can now get on with the show. So shall we do that? Yes, I think we should. Without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Monday, the 30th of June, which means it's the last day of June and it's the last show until Thursday. So please bear that in mind. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. And in today's show, the Liebherr 980 demolition rig goes to work. You might recall that not last Balmer, but the one before, the Liebherr 980 was my pick of the bunch, and I'm sticking with it. It's some machine. You'll see it in just a moment. Bobcat is aiming big with the E220 excavator, John Deere, and a legacy of loyalty. And we're heading back to Italy, going back on the EDA study tour of Italy, and this time we're calling in upon the factory, of the attachment giant Mantovanibenne. And if you can't be bothered to saying Mantovanibenne, then just go for MBI. They will fully understand. Illusory Commission has just said, Happy Monday, Mr. Beardo. I'll go with that. Thank you very much indeed. Happy Monday to you as well, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Morning monologue today is the inevitability of change. It's nowhere near as complicated as it sounds, I promise you. No mystery machine today, but I do have a question of the day. I've already posted it in the chat, but here is a quick reminder of exactly what that looks like. Yeah, I should probably have saved this for Thanksgiving Day, but I'm English, so we don't do that. So I'm going to go with this. Our question of the day today comes once again from our resident quizmaster, who is in the house, by the way, Mr. Gary Muirhead. His question is this: what is something you're grateful for? Now, I guess my default answer would probably have been my family, my dogs. Truth be told, I'm going with my health. If you've known me for long enough, you'll know I had some really pretty poor health a few years ago, which landed me in hospital more times than I care to mention. I don't want to tempt fate, but I'm doing okay at the moment. I'm firing on all cylinders, so I'm grateful for my health. What about you lot? Mr. Clipser Beast, rather, our friend Rick says he is grateful for watching my show, but he's also grateful for being alive. I'd go with the first one. The first one, and then the second one is a bonus. And Illusory Commission just says, I'm grateful for the love of doggone dogs. So am I. So am I. The more people I meet, the more I love dogs, is the absolute truth of the matter. Anybody else got anything that they're grateful for? And there you are. Chris Phillips says, question of the day, my health. Without that, you've got nothing. I indeed agree. The biggest reveals was the electric wheel loader, the new L260, the new ADT with all rear all-round suspension, unreal. The new EWR, that was the one I was after. The EWR 150 wheeled excavator was most popular. The new seat belts are so much better. They have really thought out everything with so much more. The new front windows are now one window, no two halves. And I think you like the, was it that screen you were talking about, or was it the internal screen? I can never remember. But yeah, listen, with it, to save you typing, Steve, just drop a link where people can see your videos into the chat, and then let them go and make their own mind up. It'll be easier for you and probably easier for everybody else as well. We're all going for much the same answer. Question of the day, Dan Cullen says, getting up and being able-bodied. Yeah, absolutely. Jim Turner says, living this long, he is grateful for that. Illusory Commission says, tickling the tummy of dogs is sexy. I mean, I like it. I'm not entirely sure I'd go with sexy, but hey, listen, each to their own. Kerry Jones is here. Morning, Kerry. We have a button for Kerry somewhere. There he is. He says, health after an accident last year, being able to walk again. I didn't realise what. Well, don't dwell on what actually happened, but how are you actually doing, Kerry? And there is the link to Steve Williamson's various things. I know that's his Instagram, actually. Go take a look. He's had one hell of a fun journey. Listen, I'm seeing Volvo tomorrow. Not at Eskilstone, I'm going to Germany. But Volvo do take incredibly good care of you. And the freedom, I don't know how you found it, Steve. I mean, you probably got even more freedom than I do, because I'm a keyboard warrior. I'm not actually an operator. But you literally get to Eskilstuna. They do a bit of a presentation, fireworks and pyrotechnics and everything else. And then it's almost a case of, here's everything. Go and have a play. They really are incredibly welcoming, incredibly helpful. I'm sure he had a fantastic time. Kerry says, all okay, but it's dodgy for a couple of months. Yeah, listen, I don't know about you, Kerry, but one of the reasons I'm grateful for my health was I had a couple of things. I had I had a burst appendix, which stuck me in hospital for about a month. Then I caught sepsis, not once, but twice. That kept me in hospital for about 2 weeks each time. Then I had the whack on the head on a demolition site. That was only about a week in the hospital, then a couple of days to have my eye socket fixed. But you get to the point, I don't know about you, but you get to the point where you start to forget how it feels to be healthy. I don't know about you, but I did go, particularly with the appendix, I kind of forgot what it felt like to be healthy, and it took a long while to get that back. Illusory Commission says, wasn't Volvo a Nazi tank manufacturer? Not as far as I'm aware. Not as far as I'm aware. I mean, I know some of the companies in the industry will have had some wartime connections, but I'm not sure Volvo was one of them, but you could well be right. Steve Williamson says, question of the day, having genuine friends. Too many have turned their noise up just because of what I do. All I say to them is, how do you do it? You know, I can never remember how you do it. There you go. You get the idea. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Listen, I will get on with the show in just a moment, but I remember so distinctly when I was leaving Plant Manager's Journal in 1990. By that time, I had something of a reputation. You know, I knew a lot of people, and you know, I was welcomed everywhere by and large. This was long before I started to really upset people, but no, I was genuinely welcomed in plant circles. So when I was winding down, I mean, I had to give like 3 months' notice. And during my the working of my 3 months' notice, the number of people said, "Oh, as soon as you've got your feet under the desk, when you've gone freelance, give us a shout. We'll definitely work with you." One out of hundreds ended up working with. I mean, truth be told, he was a friend anyway. But yeah, lots and lots of promises. And I've got to be honest, it was a wake up call, and it was a welcome wake up call. It was literally a case of, all the time that we are getting some free publicity out of you, you're our best friend. As soon as we need to pay you to do any work, you're no longer our best friend. Yeah. Would you ask them that whilst touring Volvo's plant? Probably not. To be honest. Now, Alex has just said, Volvo is not even German, let alone building tanks. I assume he's thinking of Volkswagen. Could well be Volkswagen. As I say, I mean, I think Liebherr had some connection to all things wartime. I can never remember exactly what it was. But Volvo being Swedish, I mean, I don't know. Is the easy answer. I've got footage of operating the first BM wheel loader. Goodness, how far things have come. Yeah. Did Steve? Did you do the Monktail Museum just around the corner? I hope you did, because that really is, which kind of plays into our morning monologue today about change. It is inevitable. You can't fight it. So keep an eye on it. Steve Williamson says Volvo soon will be building everything in Sweden. Yeah, absolutely. They announced last week, I think, that they are basically relinquishing their presence in China, and they're basically moving back everything to Europe, which I'm pleased to see. Very pleased to see. I wonder what that says about the Chinese market. Interesting to see. Anyway, we did the museum. We had a meal in there and a tour. Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been there 2 or 3 times. And to be honest, the last time I went there, they didn't give us more than about 20 minutes to walk around it. I'd have quite happily taken 3 hours. It's that good. And I always want to take my fishing rod there because it's right on a lake with a little fast-flowing river there. That would be nice. Volvo, if you're listening, next time, rather than a 2-day trip, make it 3. Let me get some fishing in. Anyway, all of that being said, let's get on with the show. Back after this. If you cast your mind back to the year 2022, I think it was about October time, because Bauma was a weird, well, it was out of sync. It was the wrong time of the year and everything else. There were many, many highlights, but my personal favourite was the Liebherr 980 demolition machine, which was resplendent in red. Well, you know, Volvo 980s are now out at work. This one isn't red, but man alive, proper tool. Steve, you beat me to it. I was actually going to say, does anyone recognise that music? It was awesome. Yeah, it was a rock version of the Jurassic Park theme. Well spotted, sir. Peter McKenna's here. Morning, Peter. How are you doing, mate? Good to see you here. Crusaders for Drivers. He has a new image. Glad to see it. Looks good. Ken Hatcher says Volvo can see the tariffs coming and the quality going down. I hadn't heard anything about the quality, but certainly the tariffs will be an issue. So yes, interesting times. Dan Carr says, "What the f?" Now that's a bloody beast. Yes, it certainly is. Where are we? Somebody. There we are, Steve Williamson. My room lock didn't work. They got a key to bypass it, but that didn't work either. So the crowbar came out. We stayed in the hotel that's joined to the museum, which means you were almost certainly overlooking overlooking either the river or the lake. Which did you get? Personally, I like the river because if you've got your window open this time of year, you can hear the water. Love it. Absolutely love it. There's another one. There we are. Peter McKenna says, I'm going to have to quit doing the campaign work, as my wife says. My wife's complaining that it's all I do. It's all for nothing, rather. And if I want to do something, I should be getting paid to do it. So I wasted the last 3 months of my life for nothing. I don't agree with that at all, Peter. If you've raised awareness with one person, then your last 3 months are not wasted. It's a damn shame to hear that, because I did get the very distinct impression that you were kind of gaining momentum there. Could you not make it a bit more of a spare time thing? I don't know. Yeah, listen, you know your situation and your domestics and everything else, but it would be a shame to see all that hard work go to waste. We're going to be back in just a moment with Bobcat, a bit bigger than usual.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, Bobcat. Whenever I think of Bobcat, I mean, I generally think of skid steer loaders, to be perfectly honest with you. But when I think of their excavators, I generally feel smaller end, mini excavators. Think again.
This job requires strength, speed, and determination. You've got all that, but you need the right machine to match your ambition. And a compact machine isn't going to cut it. The Bobcat E220 large excavator is built to dig in and deliver big results. Equipped with a 174 horsepower turbocharged engine, this 22-ton conventional tail swing excavator delivers excellent lifting capabilities to tackle the toughest digging and heaviest loads without hesitation. And with more than 21 feet of digging depth, there's no problem going deep when the job demands it. When better, smoother control matters, the fine swing feature gradually brings your bucket to a full stop, avoiding spillage. No wasted motion, no wasted material. And because every job is unique, the E220 puts 4 selectable power modes at your fingertips, letting you dial in the perfect balance of power for breaking through tough ground or optimizing fuel consumption during lighter tasks like fine grading. While in digging work mode, Smart Power Control matches load to engine RPM, hydraulic pump torque, and engine response, further improving efficiency in any of the 4 power modes. The suspension cab is roomy and quiet. With wide visibility, ergonomic controls, and a heated air suspension seat, you stay comfortable no matter how long the job takes. The high-resolution 8-inch touch display gives you intuitive, convenient control of performance data, machine settings, rear and side cameras, and more. An exceptional warranty of 36 months or 5,000 hours gives you even more peace of mind. This job is big, and you need large-scale performance that measures up. The Bobcat E220 large excavator is the game changer you need to pull it off. Check it out now at your Bobcat dealer.
A good question, Dan, who says, will there be a machine of this caliber in the UK from Bobcat? I can see no reason why not. I'm assuming that the UK importers or the UK dealers import everything. I don't actually know the answer to that. Chris Ford pointing out it's a Develon. I mean, obviously they are part of the same group, but we've said this before. Bearing in mind that Hyundai, Develon, and Bobcat are all, all linked and what have you. If you had to choose on that machine, would you choose it in Hyundai colours? Would you choose it in Develon orange, or would you choose it in Bobcat white, even though it's the same machine underneath? And I know it's stupid, and I know I shouldn't be swayed by aesthetics, but personally, I'd like the white one, please. Let's have a look back here. Yeah, Dan Cullen says, I don't agree either, Peter. Gary Muirhead says, don't give up, Peter. Keep going, my friend. One day it'll all pay off for you. I agree. Peter also says, I'm gaining the momentum and it could turn into a business in the next 6 months, but she can't look that far forward. Hey, listen, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. Peter also says, looks like a decent machine and it's a Bobcat. Can't go wrong with Bob's cat. No, I agree. Turner, Jesus, Peter, I think your missus needs a serious chat. It's a tough one. It is a tough one. I don't get much in the way of negative, but I've got to be honest. When I started this show and it was earning nothing, literally earning not a bean. It did take some explaining. So I fully understand where you're coming from. Ender Lee says, hi, good morning from Facebook. Good morning, Ender Lee. Don't know where you've come from, don't know where you are in the world, but you're very, very welcome. In fact, so welcome, in fact, that I need to do this because this is what we do for newcomers. There we are. Ender Lee, that is for you. That's your welcome confetti. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Illusory Commission says that's a real ass digger. Now, I can't tell whether that was the Bobcat or the Liebherr machine that went through before. Don't know. Peter says Bobcat is not the same as Develon. Bobcat and Develon are distinct brands, though they are both part of the Doosan group at one point. Yes, but they are. I mean, it was Doosan Bobcat for many, many years. And I'll be honest with you, once they started to go off in different directions, I kind of started to lose the plot a little bit. Steve also says it took me years to gain anything from what I did. It's paid off in the end. Yeah, listen, I consider myself to be pretty good at my job. I consider myself to be a pretty damn good writer. I mean, I'm not Stephen King, I'm not William Shakespeare, but in the terms of demolition and construction, I'm pretty much as good as it gets. But I think the biggest skill is probably the wrong word, but the best thing I have going for me is consistency. I will show up here every single day. I will outwork everybody else, and there are others that claim to be the biggest in the UK or the most positive demolition title in the world. Keep up because you've got nothing. And consistency, listen, it will pay off. Peter, try to find a workaround. Peter says Doosan Infracore, which included the construction equipment line, rebranded as Develon. Bobcat, however, remained a separate brand within the broader Doosan portfolio and has since expanded into new product lines. It has, but even some of those have been via either acquisition or badging ventures as well. Trying to remember is it Manu they've got some telehandlers from? I think it might be. Mark Fitz has just arrived as well, by the way, over on Instagram. Morning, Mark. Back in a moment. What have we got next? I'm actually asking you because I don't know. Oh, yeah, we're going stateside. We're going to talk about John Deere with a long-serving customer. Back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, let's talk John Deere. But in fact, I want to let somebody else do it. Somebody that's been a customer for a long, long time.
I come in the mornings about 4:30 and I work all day. I just love to work. My name is Bonnie Bright, owner of Bonnie Bright Farms and Bonnie Bright Sand. Bright Farms began with me and my daddy in 1959. We farmed until I bought a piece of property and it had a little teeny burrow pit onto it. We serve house builders, some big contractors. We haul to people building highways and hotels. We are now working on to a big windmill project. Makes me feel good, and we're hauling and doing things that I never thought we would ever do. If it wasn't for the good people that I have, I couldn't do it. Coastal has been with us in the good times and the bad ones. The Clay family, we have grown real now close.
I'm Jeff Clay, president of Coastal Equipment. My grandfather started what's now Coastal Equipment in 1952. This is our 73rd year. My father joined the business after him, and Bonnie had a great relationship with my father, and Bonnie actually also worked with my grandfather. I met Bonnie in the early 90s. I'd been at Coastal for a few years and felt like I was meeting a legend. It's been a joy to see Bonnie grow over the years, and he's just been so methodical with purchasing land, adding equipment, and being strategic.
If I live another 100 more years, it's going to be with Coastal. We've been buying John Deere for a long time, and with a good product and a good dealer. You know, I don't see why anybody would buy nothing but John Deere.
That is pretty much how I'd like to see out my career, to be perfectly honest. Doing it for the love. Absolutely. Steve says, what a great video. Yeah, I totally agree. Steve, on another subject, says, Volvo said to us all, we want your opinions and experience. None of the copy and paste from a website or sounding like a salesperson, and that's how it should be. Your thoughts and your experience and your words. You're absolutely right. I've got to be honest, they do a thing at Volvo, and I'm not saying other manufacturers could learn from it, but I did find it quite refreshing. When we first saw the new F-series excavators, you know, we all got to have a bit of a play. And bearing in mind, I'm a keyboard jockey. I'm not an operator by any means. But literally had 10 minutes behind the controls, got off, and Volvo people, what did you think? What do you think of this? What did you think of that? And it wasn't a case of heap us with praise. We genuinely want your feedback. And listen, you'll get better feedback from Steve because he does this all day, every day. But yeah, really, really refreshing to not just here's our machine, isn't it great? Here's our machine. What do you think? Have we got it right? Have we got it wrong? Is there anything you'd like to see improved? Hats off to them. Absolutely hats off to them. Speaking of hats off, I'm going to be going to. It's got nothing to do with hats off. I'm just going to use that as my segue. We're off to Italy in just a moment after this. Yeah, Steve, you had the same experience as me. I went to Sweden and you know, was expected to see the F-Series. And a few people within Volvo actually said, you know, these are the F-Series, but then we're not calling them the F-Series. They're not the F-Series. But they kind of are. I know what you're saying. Jim Turner says, that's when you, what you do is your life, never just a job or a business. Yeah. Fantastic to get to that situation. Yeah, and imagine, I mean, I didn't catch how old that guy was, but imagine getting to that age where you just wake up in the morning and think, I'm going to go and have a play on some diggers because that's what I love to do. Yeah, he will die a happy man, I'd like to think. I hope it's a long way off as well. Now, speaking of happy men, I met some very happy people while I was in Italy. One of the, I think, one of the last 2 or 3 visits that we did while we were in Italy was to the headquarters of Mantovanibenne, or MBI as they're also known. Worth noting that this company has been around, they've been around a long while, but they kind of restarted because they were hit by an earthquake back in the early 2000s and basically had to rebuild from the ground up. So it's good to see them doing so well, and they are a fantastic bunch. I got to meet the MD's 2 boys, and had a great time. This is a walk around Mantovanibenne. There you are. I'm going to say good morning, or should I say ciao to Oil Quick Italy, who just joined us. I'm hoping that's Alessandro. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing? Ciao. Peter McKenna says, I know the bloke behind Diesel Dye. So do I, which is how they're an advertiser, actually. And Steve says, fingers crossed, you may see me in their rally cars. Have you seen their rally car in action, Steve? I've been lucky enough to see it actually racing twice now. Terrifyingly fast. But bearing in mind, this is in the Rallycross championships, and the Rallycross these days is electric, all electric. And man alive, I mean, they're fast, you know. I mean, the tracks are a bit windy, and there's a bit of off-roading and stuff like that. But the acceleration of those things, I mean, they go 0 to 60 in, as long as you can hold on, basically. But if you do get a chance, make sure you've got a GoPro strapped to your head, and make sure you're strapped in, because they do go. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to remind you for the umpteenth time, no show tomorrow, no show Wednesday, but I am going to be back here on Thursday for more of this. So I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you again very soon. Thursday would be good. But if you do have the time and the inclination, stick around, because I'll be back after this. There was, I am sure, a board meeting at the Hymac headquarters during the 1980s, in which the company's directors congratulated themselves on another year of success and looked ahead to more of the same. By 1993, Hymac had gone the way of the dodo. There was likely a time when manufacturers of motor scrapers could see no end in sight to their global domination of the muck shifting space. Aside from a recent semi-resurgence, scrapers are now about as current as flare trousers and glam rock. In much the same way, I'm sure that diesel engine manufacturers the world over were projecting production and profits that stretch to the horizon and beyond. The sun hasn't quite set on diesel engine manufacturing supply, but it's certainly going down. We are in the dusk of diesel. All of which proves... No, let me try it again. All of which goes to prove that the passage of time has a nasty habit of making preconceptions look foolhardy. Now, before we go on, I'd like to tell you a very quick story. In 2007, I was invited back to be the guest editor of Plant Manager's Journal, the magazine I'd left 17 years before. It was supposed to be a one-off issue, but I ended up staying for 6 months. During that time, the publishers asked how I might improve their magazine. I told them they needed to start publishing online and to embrace video. In their infinite wisdom, they decided that the internet was a flash in the pan and that online video would never catch on. The internet subsequently changed the course of popular culture, and online video is now a multi-billion-dollar business, and for many, a primary source of information and entertainment. I'd love to tell them I told you so, but the magazine and the people that made it happen are all long gone. Ours is an industry built upon shifting sands. It doesn't seem that long ago that all the major civil engineering firms had their own massive plant fleets and employed hundreds of men to operate their machines. It doesn't seem that long ago when familiar names like Ackerman, Ruston Bucyrus, Hymac, Drott and Priestman were part of everyday conversation rather than nostalgic memories of a time gone by. We work in an industry in which change is the only constant. That change is not always welcome. Despite the sector's dynamism, it remains fundamentally conservative in nature. But like it or not, and in the words of Sam Cooke, a change is going to come, and to suggest otherwise is merely to tempt fate. We can all sit here and insist that rumours of diesel's demise are greatly exaggerated and that it will remain our primary fuel source for years to come. That might be right, but its days are numbered. Let me put it like this. If I was buying shares right now, I'd be backing those in the electrification space, not the diesel engine industry. Similarly, we can each insist Similarly, we can each insist that remotely controlled and autonomous equipment are the stuff of science fiction, that they will never replicate the creativity or the feel of a human operator. All of that might also be true, But there are forces far greater than human feel at play here. Robotics revolutionized the manufacturing industry, making it safer, more productive, and significantly more profitable. That revolution will be replicated in demolition and construction. To deny it is to play King Canute, ordering the waves to retreat. And before you dismiss this article or this monologue, think about the changes we've seen in less than a span of a career. When I first set foot on a demolition site, most firms had a crawler crane and a wrecking ball, not as museum curiosities, but as key parts of their equipment arsenal. There was a time when no self-respecting house builder or plant hirer would be without a backhoe loader. Backhoes are still around, but with each passing year, they become more and more like the Britpop of the plant world, churning out their greatest hits and surviving on former glories. Change is inevitable. You can dig your heels in as hard as you like, but it's going to happen. As Sam Cooke sang so beautifully, a change is going to come. Oh, yes, it will. There you are. I don't know how I managed to weave Sam Cooke into the narrative of a construction equipment story, but that's how we roll around these places. Let's have a look. What have we got? Steve Williamson says. He says, well said, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. I mean, listen, our friend Steve is an agent of change himself. That's why he embraces these trips up to Eskilstuna to be at the cutting edge. It's absolutely true. Now, Illusory Commission is literally trying to fool me here because I've been talking to him over on Instagram and now here he is over on YouTube. Imagine thinking print will outpace moving pictures. It was a genuine conversation. This is absolutely true. And just to hang on. I'm hoping this is the right one. Yeah, it is. Yeah, there we go. So, when was this? This was April 2007, right? So I'd left Plant Manager's Journal in June 1990. 17 years later, they invited me back and said, we're a little concerned with the magazine at the moment. It's not doing all that it should. Come back, all is forgiven for a freelance job. Do one issue, just tear up the rule book and do it your own way. So that's absolutely fine. So that's what we did. Now I don't know how well you'll see this, but see that head to head? So we took an MB crusher, track-mounted crusher, no, not track-mounted, excavator-mounted crusher, and a red rhino. Took them out onto a site and we tested them side by side. And as you can see, we produced tables and we produced photographs, but we also produced video. Now, this 2007 was only about a year after YouTube actually kicked off, but that video got lots of views and continues to get views to this very day. So we had, it wasn't just me being a smart ass. I had genuine proof. Look, here's a thing that we've done. This is the sort of feedback we're getting. And they basically said, no, it won't. And the idea of putting the magazine online, going back to our friend Illusory Commission's comment there, I think that the conversation was as simple as, we can't see how we can make money online, therefore we will not do it. That they didn't foresee a time when you could take advertising online or you could charge for content that was behind paywalls and all that kind of thing. They were basically a magazine publisher, and all they knew was magazine publishing. So I told them all of this, and they chose to ignore it. I think I did 6 issues, maybe 5, possibly 6. And then I went back to do what I've been doing before. And within about a year, the magazine folded. I'm not saying I could have saved it. I don't believe I could. But to dismiss possible new forms of revenue, new forms of engaging with an audience, and they just dismissed it entirely. And listen, it's still playing out today. I don't actually have any competitors for this show because nobody else has the wherewithal. And people are still flogging magazines and hoping that's enough. I'll make an exception. Awesome Earth Movers, what they do with their online and magazine and social media, that makes a lot of sense to me. But those that are still flogging the magazine notion, don't get it. I don't get it at all, and it's a race to the bottom. You've got people. Back when back when I was doing that, a full page of advertising in Plant Manager's Journal, even back in 2007, was probably about £1,000 a page, give or take. There are magazines in our industry now that are doing that for £300 a page. It makes no financial sense, which is why so many of them go out of business and then have to reform themselves in some other way. It just makes no sense. Look at wake up, smell the coffee. The world is now living online. I'm an avid reader. You can see books behind me. I read. That's part of how I learn to write and how I hone my skills. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I picked up a magazine, and not just an industry magazine. I don't read fishing magazines anymore. If I want to find out the latest on my, how to operate the drone or this microphone or that camera or whatever it might be, I don't go to a magazine. I go to a website or I go to a YouTube video. And to dismiss that, and unfortunately, I think we're exactly the same in this industry. I am equally guilty, which is why I'm very keen to get over to Nuremberg tomorrow. I've been talking about, there are bits of the industry that are quite easy to electrify. We've already seen it in mining. If you imagine a materials handler working on a dockside where you can tether it to a generator and it will basically produce its own power through the slewing motion, the slew brake will regenerate electricity. I can see all that. And then you look at demolition and you think, does that really work? Could we generate the power? Can we recharge? Can the recharge take place quickly enough? And so on down line. And I'm going to see somebody that's actually done precisely that. So, yeah, you dismiss change at your peril. Steve says, I've not bought a magazine for years. Pointless. It all becomes old news. Yeah, it does. I mean, I think there are exceptions. And I don't know if she's watching today, but Dr. Yvonne Waterman has come up with this new asbestos magazine. The thing I will say about that is hers it is a magazine, but I think it's also a work of reference. I think it's one of those, whereas, I mean, I've only kept that as a bit of a novelty because that was the last magazine I ever edited, of somebody else's anyway. I've edited my own. But what she's come up with is the sort of magazine that when you've read it, you'll put it on a bookshelf because at some point in a year, 6 months, whatever it might be, what was that again? What was that about? I don't know, legislation or regulations or whatever it might be. I need to go back. I think that's a different animal. Illusory Commission says, my good friend's dad ran a tackle shop. His son pleaded with him to run a website. He chose not to. Now where there was a tackle shop, it's now a plus-size women's panty shop. Hey, each to their own. But, yeah, absolutely. I am a keen fisherman. We still have a couple of fishing tackle shops not a million miles away from where I am. But I reckon when I was in my teens, which is a long time ago, I grant you, when I was in my teens, I probably had maybe a dozen tackle shops within a 10-minute drive. I think we've got 2 now. So, yeah. I mean, even my son Fred is really into his golf at the moment, and we've got big golf shops just up the road. Who goes to a golf shop? Just order your bits and your clubs and your bag and your various bits and pieces. You order them online. Why would you not? The cost of running an actual retail space, and if anyone's ever visited a golf shop, you'll know they require a lot of space. It's costly, very, very costly. And when you think about the magazines, I mean, when we were printing the Demolition magazine, that's not it, obviously, but when we were printing the Demolition magazine, it was costing us thousands each issue, thousands in print and thousands in post. To what end? Whereas, we put them all online. We did carry on printing them, and we were printing them right down to the bitter end. But we were getting way more people reading it online. At no cost. No cost to us, no cost to them. Makes perfect sense. Peter McKenna says, nice one, Mark. Cool monologue. Thank you very much indeed. I do appreciate that. Gary says, just been told we've been given the green light for an extension to this wind farm on phase 2. Another 35 new turbines, with the turbine blade of these being 86 meters long. A 24-month job. Congratulations, Gary. I mean, I know this requires you to be working away, which is probably not ideal. But listen, the way the world and the way the economy are at the moment, I think the actually have a bit of job security is probably not a bad place to be. I saw something else here as well. Peter says, "Did you see the poem I wrote for Spud Brothers Preston North End collaboration?" I did not. Peter, drop me a link in the WhatsApp group, would you? I don't know who Spud Brothers are. Is this a food thing? I don't know. But Preston North End, yeah, where my lot, West Ham, have a bit of a history with Preston North End. The White Horse final, was that Preston North End? I think it was. Peter McKenna says, "We have a tackle shop in Preston." How do we go into tackle shops? I don't know. They went online 15 years ago. A majority of their sales are online. The shop is there mainly to sell bait. Yeah, bait is a bit harder to sell over the internet. I grant you that. Well, more people visit golf shops if it didn't cost a limb for a driver. They are very, very expensive, aren't they? I'm glad it's something I'm not interested in. Jim says, folk are keen to dismiss ideas. I was having a crack with the plant manufacturer's representative and I put in a few ideas forward that I believed would help their product. All my ideas were very much looked down upon. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to press you on which manufacturer that was, but as I say, you compare and contrast that with what the experience that Steve has just had. You know, I mean, I genuinely think that if Steve had come up with something, you know, some newfangled idea or some specific improvement on even the very, very latest Volvo machines, I think they'd have taken him into a quiet room and noted it all down, because that's the way that Volvo roll. And I have to say, hats off to them for it. Good news for plant and the heavy haulage industry, Gary. That's all part of the 24-month wind turbine thing. Peter says it's now in the group. Peter, I'll have a look at that just as soon as the show is over, which it kind of is. I'm just chewing the fat right now. I'm going to remind you for the final time, no show tomorrow, no show Wednesday, back on Thursday. When we come back on Thursday, I can tell you now, I've literally finished it before I came online this morning. As part of our EDA study tour, you will know that we visited the headquarters, the factory, and the museum of Lamborghini. I realise it's got absolutely squat to do with construction. I mean, I know they make factories. We didn't get to see that. That's a different factory entirely. We didn't even get to film the factory because that is top secret. You know, we had to lock away phones and cameras into lockers before we went around. But I did manage to get a good look around the museum, which frankly was the best bit. I'm not a car expert. I'm not a petrol head, but I can tell you, as far as I'm concerned, Lamborghini started out, you know, back in the 60s making cool cars, and they got more mental as time's gone on. They've got a couple that were released in the last maybe 10, 12 years. It basically looks like somebody's watched the Batmobile a bit too much. Fantastic cars, but yeah, bit mental. So if you'd like to have a look around the Lamborghini Museum, be here on Thursday, because I've got that film literally sat waiting in the wings if you fancy a bit of that. Between now and then, I'm going to go to Germany. So I've got bags to pack and things to charge and what have you. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you ever so much for all your company. Thank you for all your input today. I'll be back on Thursday. Do me a favour, would you, between now and then? Look after yourself, because I don't want to come back and find any of you missing. Gary says, always building a massive battery bank on site for energy storage, another 2-year project. Safe to say, turkey again for Christmas. Gary, I may be coming to you. Turkey, stuff with haggis. Has anyone ever done that? I think they should start. That would be a... Listen, I'd eat it. Just saying. Everybody go and have a fantastic time. Illusory Commission says, why would they lock phones away? My guess, well, I mean, obviously trade secrets, industrial espionage. You get to see, I mean, the factory tour it lasts about an hour and a half, and you do literally get to see, you know, where the screws go and where the bolts go and what the engine looks like and how the engine fixes to the batteries, because a lot of them are battery assisted and stuff like that. So yes, I'm sure it is down to trade secrets and what have you. The museum was the best bit. The factory, because it is heavily robotized, bit impersonal, bit cold, bit clinical, whereas the cars themselves, particularly the older ones, sexy as all hell. Jim Turner says, safe travels, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Peter says, bye, Mark. Enjoy the trip. And Dan says, stay safe. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Garden and Mostly Diggers, your timing is terrible. You're arriving as I'm leaving. But good morning to you, my friend. I'll see you very soon. Back on Thursday. Till then, everybody, behave yourselves. See you soon.